Why, hello, beautiful people of the internet. Happy Monday. How's everyone doing? Let's see here. Alan says he's gonna try and catch this one, but he might have an 11 o'clock something. How's it going? I am checking the stream to make sure it's working. Really weird time for a live stream today. Apologies for that. But I'm getting on a plane here in just about 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours to go to the Bahamas. Hey, Valentina, how are you? Hello, Lieber. How's it going? Happy Monday, beautiful people of the internet. How are we? Don't mind me, I'm gonna be drinking a beer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. I'm drinking a beer and I have a lot yet to get done today, so I'm a little nervous about that. Hello, Victor. Oh, apologies. Hello, Victor. How was my week? Lieber asks. My week was really good. Yeah, really good, actually. I'll show you one of the reasons it was really good here in just a second. But first, tradition is tradition, right? I'm drinking for today's live stream Vanilla Porter by Breckenridge Brewery out of Colorado. I have had this beer before, I'll be honest. But it's been a couple years, probably, at least a year. And I really like this beer. I'm a big fan of porters in general. Vanilla porters, also very good. So, oh, hello, hello. This is uncharacteristically early. Yeah, Jack. I'll explain why in just a second. I am headed to the Bahamas tomorrow on vacation. That's one of the reasons my week is going so well, is it's all prep for vacation. Headed to the Bahamas for a week with my girlfriend, and I cannot wait. So that's why I have to get this thing done early, because we are leaving very early tomorrow on a plane, and I have lots to do yet tonight. Have I read Underworld by Don DeLillo? If so, what do you think? I'm going to start reading it tonight. I have not. I've not read it. It's actually sitting right here and this is my to-be-read pile. These are books I still have yet to read. I started it one time on the channel, actually. Veterans of the channel will know that I started it once and I did not finish it. That was a really hard summer for me, and I did not finish it. I didn't get very far in, to be clear, maybe 20 pages. Have I read anything by Bolaño? Only a couple stories. No novels. No novels, yeah. I'm hoping to, though. One of my best friends, Zach, is a huge Bolaño fan, and he tells me every single day that we talk that I should read more Bolaño. And every single day I'm like, you know what? You're right. I should. And I really want to. There's just not enough time in the day. I'm looking down here at comments. That's why I'm looking off the screen. Jack says hello. Duck Goes Quack says hey. Hey, Duck Goes Quack. Is it cool? Should I call you Duck or should I call you Quack? I might call you Quack. I'm on the second draft of my paper, and I'm writing a paper on Absalom. Good stuff. How's it coming? Are you feeling good about it? Mars, hello. Cheers to you, Mars. Thanks for being here and moderating the comments. Appreciate you. Victor just had a Locan 10% Imperial Stout. It was all right. Got me drunker than expected. I'll be honest. I've got all these beers saved up for live streams, like specific beers that I just buy one bottle of or can of. This one's 5%, and that's the reason I'm drinking it, is that there are some 12% in there, and I don't want to be drunk when I have lots of stuff yet to do today, including packing my entire suitcase. Oh, local. Okay, gotcha. Duck Goes Quack. You are hereafter known as Quack. So. Hello, Misadventures. You are awake for one of these live streams. I'm happy for you. Thanks. Happy we could make this work for you. Jack says, writing an essay on Kierkegaard for tomorrow. It's very blah. Jack, I don't remember if you were here for last week's live stream, but I actually drank a beer that was a Kierkegaard quote, which is, I am looking for a truth that is true for me. I just butchered that, for sure. I butchered the crap out of that. Any title suggestions? It's going good. The first paper is Exoplanets Search for the Greater Unknown. No title suggestions for Absalom. Don't know. Ryan Moore asks, you ever write any fiction yourself? Yes. In fact, I spent 2 years in a grad program, an MFA, writing fiction. So lots. I have not written any today, but I did write some yesterday, actually. Christopher, hello. How's it going? Yeah, Jack, you missed it. There's a beer named after a Kierkegaard quote, and I just butchered the quote, but yeah, it was good. Kierkegaard's awesome. We talked a little bit about it on the last stream. One of the philosophers I really like. Yeah, and the quote is, it's something like, I am looking for a truth that is true for me. Something like that. Quack is writing fiction right now, outlining my newest novel. That's incredible. How's the outline going? Are you feeling good? Second edit of my first novel, Ryan Moore says, took me 3 months straight to write and then 6 months to edit. It's so goddamn hard. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Fiction writing in general is really tough, but fiction writing is tough. Then again, Valentina, known translator on the channel, is doing something much more difficult, which is translating a novel. It's a novel that you're translating, right, Valentina? Let's see here. Valentina should be studying. Thanks for skipping studying to hang out with us, at least for a little while. Hey, really quick, before I get much farther, I want to read a couple poems. Both of these were sent in by people who watched the stream. If you have a poem that you would like me to read by a poet you really like, feel free to email me. My email is ryanhornerwrites@gmail.com. Mars, if you would do me a favor and put that in the comments, I will appreciate you forever. Remind me, people, have I read the Ode to the Artichoke poem by Pablo Neruda on the live stream before? I don't remember. If I have, I don't want to read it again, but I don't think I've read it on the live stream. There's another one that I'm going to read really quickly while you guys answer that. Mars, you deserve a pay raise. You deserve a raise. From 0 to something more than 0. I appreciate you. Thank you. This poem was submitted by Minhaz Muhammad, who I don't know if they're here today, but hopefully they'll see this on the channel if not. So this poem is called The Entire History of Architecture by Luke Davies, and I read it once and I liked it, so I'm going to read it again. The Entire History of Architecture. Michael, come quick, you can see a palace drowning in the lake. A distant plain's lights twinkle. Under the gold tree, furthermore, she spoke of herself as a shark, panda, otter girl. Something about sharks need to keep moving, pandas need to keep chewing, and thank God, therefore, for our otter nature. Say that 10 times fast. She continued. You swim because you can, and eat shellfish of the table of your belly. All glorious stuff. Be there a heaven here on earth, it is this, it is this, it is this. I really love that line. Be there a heaven here on earth, it is this, it is this, it is this. Or, wake on a wet Sunday morning, rain drumming hard, and praise the entire history of architecture. It is led to the tightness of roofs, after all. And all this gray beauty. Stay in bed, of course. You'll see a palace drowning in a lake, if you are lucky. At the touching of your limbs, you too will start the drowning. 10, your breath. 9, your voice. 8, your eyes. Be there a 7 here on earth. On earth, it is this, it is this, it is this. 6, echoes of the afterbreath. 5, kisses for your thighs and climbing. A palace drowning in a lake. 4-second flicker of a dream of loss. And there you are again, inside yourself. 3 things to think of. Something, everything, and nothing. The palace lights are burbling underwater. 2, your breath. And suddenly, your gills. Ugh. I get chills on that poem. That countdown at the end is brilliant. So happy with that countdown. Again, that is The Entire History of Architecture by Luke Davies, and I just butchered the reading of that. I apologize. I should be better at reading poems. Thank you, Minhaz, for suggesting that poem. Let's see really quickly. Did people think that we had read Ode to the Artichoke? I have not read Ode to the Artichoke yet. Okay, good. I'll read that in just a second then. I miss poetry that rhymes, Jack says. I don't. Sometimes I do, yeah. Poetry that rhymes is nice. Slant rhymes I miss like crazy. But this is a nice poem, Lieber says. Ah, Minhaz, you're here, thank you. Am I totally mispronouncing your name? I apologize if I am. Clue me in on how to pronounce your name. Jose says, yes, finally made it to a live stream. Loving the poem so far. Thanks for coming, Jose. Hope you're having a good Monday. Duck goes quack. It is this reminds me of the end of Ulysses and I Am a Cat. It also reminds me of Bullet in the Brain by Tobias Wolff. Yeah. If you know the story, you know what I'm thinking of. He's sitting in the outfield, pounding his mitt into his glove and saying something aloud. Slant rhymes are dope. Yep, agreed. Whew. All right. So let's read one more poem, and then we got some other stuff to do. We got places to be, things to read. All right, this one is Ode to the Artichoke by Pablo Neruda. Ode to the Artichoke. The tender-hearted, upright artichoke girded itself as a warrior, constructed a small dome to keep itself waterproof within its scales. At its side, crazy vegetables ruffled up in cattails and tendrils, bulbs on the march. Underground slept the red-whiskered carrot. The vineyard withered the shoots. Wine once rose through. The cabbage devoted itself to trying on skirts. Oregano scented the world. And right there in the garden, the meek artichoke, girded for battle, burnished as a grenade, haughty, and then one day, it was into the grand willow basket with the others, and off to the market it marched, to fulfill its dream. The militia. In columns never more martial than at the fair, men in their white shirts among the vegetables became field marshals of the artichokes, the closed ranks, the voices of command, and the sudden detonation of a fumbled cash box. But then comes Maria with her basket, who fearlessly picks out an artichoke, looking at it, examining it against the light as if it were an egg. She buys it, drops it into her basket with a pair of shoes, a white cabbage, and a bottle of vinegar as well. Then, entering the kitchen, plunges it into the pot. And so it ends, in peace, the career of the armored vegetable called artichoke. And presently, scale by scale, we undress this delight, we munch the peaceful paste of its green heart. I like that poem a lot. It's very story-driven, like it does the whole narrative arc thing. So, and that recommendation was by Joseph. Thank you, Joseph, if you're here, or if you see this on the channel, for recommending a poem for me. I appreciate it. It's been cool to get recommendations from people, because then I can look at them and I can read poems I've never read before. Mars, that's you? Your name is Joseph? Mars. Thank you. I like that poem. Thank you very much. All right, let's see here. Knocked out 2 finals today, Jose says. Working on a final essay in absurdism and catch-22. Good topic. So far, it's been a great Monday. Thanks. Cheers to that. How do you feel about Margaret Atwood announcing a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale? I don't have an opinion, which is an unpopular thing to say on the internet, that I do not have an opinion, but I have not read Handmaid's Tale, and I haven't watched the series, and so far I do not have an opinion. JP Fanboy says, do you speak any other languages? I wish I did. I took like 10 years of German, and I can speak ein bisschen, but I'm losing it every single day, and also I didn't do a lot of work in German class. Like 2 of those 10 years I worked really hard, and that's it. And if I have a regret at the end of my life, it might be that I don't know another language. So there's still time to change. Who here speaks other languages? I know Valentina does, because she translates. That says because I am leaving on vacation to the Bahamas tomorrow. So speaking of, I'm not going to have a live stream next Monday because I will be on a plane. So no live stream next Monday. I apologize for that, but it just ended up being a travel day. So I'm gonna have like 2 videos coming out in the next, I've got 2 videos basically done. So one will come out pretty soon, another one will come out right after that. So yeah, more videos on the channel. Just no live stream next Monday. Jack says you should read Shakespeare's Sonnet 121 sometime, nice and short, and it has the best couplet in poetry, I think. Do me a favor, email that to me at ryanhornerwrites@gmail.com. It's easy to keep track of stuff there. I'll definitely read it. My girlfriend Megan is in the chat. Hello, Megan. Sorry, I'm catching up on comments. I'm a little bit behind. Great poem. Just loved it with just shared it with my poem-loving friend. She'll love it too. Are you coming to the Dead Dinner in Dublin in January? No, I wish I had an excuse to get back to, thanks, Mars. I wish I had an excuse to get back to Ireland. Victor, tell me more about the Dead Dinner, because if this is what I think it is, then I have an amazing story for you. Okay, so if you haven't read The Dead by James Joyce, it takes place, it's this party in Dublin, and it's like a political party, but it's also a deeply personal and emotional story. It includes one of my favorite lines of all time, "Snow was general all over Ireland," which is so subtle and, oh god, that line's good. General as a description of where snow is really freaking good. So there is a house in Dublin that the Dead was supposedly, and I think they proved this pretty well, kind of modeled after. The house in The Dead was modeled after this house. I took a trip to Ireland 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, for a specific James Joyce course. We did a lot of different things. We were in Galway for a little bit. We were in Dublin for like 5 days. We were in Western Ireland a little bit. We took some like walking tours of the city based on Ulysses. One thing we did is that we knew a guy who owned the house that the Dead was modeled after. And at the time, that house was closed for, like, they had done tours at one point. They were thinking about doing dinners in this nice, lovely dining room, which was really beautiful. They had not yet gotten to that point where it was up and ready. It needed some renovations, but we knew the guy, and so he just like one evening showed up, let our group of like 6 people in, and we toured the house and spent like an hour and a half there, 2 hours there. And the landing, where there's a scene in The Dead where the main character is standing on a landing. I believe he's looking down the hall, like looking down the stairs, hearing his wife talk to somebody. And it's this like beautiful, resonant, emotionally filled moment. We got to stand on that landing, and the light coming through the window there, it's beautiful. So actually, if I can find it real quick, this is a picture, and I don't think this is from the actual house, but it's a landing a lot like that. Yeah, so it's on the cover of Dubliners, in which you can find the Dead. Victor, how did I do? Are you going to a dinner in the Dead house? Because if so, I'm very happy for you. Wow, there are a lot of comments I gotta catch up on. Give me 2 seconds. What's the longest you guys have gone without sleeping? Like 36 hours for me? It was really terrible. How about you? Lieber speaks Spanish, trying to learn Italian and French. Jeez, that's awesome. Danish and English, Dutch, English, Dutch Sign Language, and a little bit of French and German. Misadventures, teach me your ways. God, that's good. What are the videos? Okay, I'll give you a couple hints. They're both about Hogwarts and Harry Potter, and I'm really excited to talk about them. Victor is going, and he is excited. That's awesome. Heck yeah. 4 days. Lieber has been without sleep for 4 days. That's nuts. The Long Home by William Gay. I don't know if I've heard of that. Alessia, I don't know if I've said hello yet. So, hello. How's your Monday going? Holy crap, we're already 20 minutes into this. Ooh, I'm really cold in my room, and I should have put on a sweater. Okay. So, because I cannot be here forever on this live stream tonight, I can't be here for like 2 hours, I'm going to book it. And here in a minute, I'm going to read, as you have probably guessed, some more Breakfast of Champions. And we might do a short story after that, depending on how much of Breakfast of Champions we read. I'm not trying to get off the live stream very quickly. I'm just trying to keep an idea of what the time is and move us along really well. So, let's see. Victor was hallucinating after like 40 hours at a festival. Ugh. I've had maybe one reason to one time hallucinating, and that was kind of sketchy. So in Dutch high schools, 4 languages are pretty much mandatory. Excuse me, because no one else in the world speaks Dutch. God, that's so. One thing we don't do terribly well here in America, at least in the parts of America that I've studied, is like a very early and consistent emphasis on being bilingual. I know I'm not, breaking any news to anyone here, but in America, we don't do a very good job of learning other languages and like reinforcing that from an early age. I really wish, the biggest reason I wish that I could read or speak another language, it's not, like you might think, that I could read the literature from that language in its original source, although that would be pretty cool. The reason that I wish I could speak another language is that I think it is really good for every child to grow up in a bilingual home. And I think that's been proven too. Like, it's just good. And I would really like to give that to a future kid of mine, is like the opportunity to grow up in a bilingual home. Ugh. Does anybody else feel that way? I feel that way. Why aren't you doing short story Saturdays anymore? In Maine, did I just say your name absolutely incorrectly? I apologize if I did. Tell me how to say your name if I didn't screw that up. I'm hoping to. I'm not done with them forever. It's just not been the thing that I'm really interested in making right at the moment. I'm hoping, I've got a couple ideas for some, so I'm hoping to do some here soon. I just haven't had, I've been working on other stuff at the moment, and yeah. I'm only really doing, if I had infinite time and energy, I'd just make all of the videos all the time, but at this point I'm basically making videos I'm interested in and hoping to get out some like once every week. So that's the idea. Yeah. Sorry, I know Short Story Saturdays were really popular with people. It takes a lot of coordinating in terms of like putting out what video is going to be next so that people can read it, finding that story online somewhere in public domain so that people can read it, prepping a whole video about it. It's a lot of fun. It's just right now I'm doing this thing on Harry Potter here, which you guys will see very soon. So honestly, beer is pretty good, as you can maybe tell by the fact that it's halfway gone already. Very good. Okay, so I might, if it's cool with you guys, might read some Breakfast of Champions to us. At least one chapter, probably 2. I kind of looked ahead at what the chapters were, how long they were. So if you are not caught up on what's happening right now, we have Kilgore Trout, the absolutely worst author that's ever lived, who's written a lot of books and no one has read them, or almost no one has read them. We have him. He's headed to a Midland City Arts Festival. Midland City is in the Midwest. Mars says, nah, not cool with us. All right, cool, sweet. Well, screw it. Just kidding. He's headed to Midland City Arts Festival because one person who is in charge of the Arts Festival has read his books and thinks that he's good, and he's like the only person in the world. So he's going to, he's bringing Kilgore Trout to come read at this festival. The other main character is Dwayne Hoover, and Dwayne Hoover has some bad chemicals going on in his brain. He's kind of losing his mind, and we're watching him trip out and go all over the place and screw things up. So last we checked, Kilgore Trout was in a like semi-truck driver's semi. He was in a truck driven by a semi-truck driver, going across the country and having a really hilarious conversation about environmental conservatism and conservation is the right word, and basically saying screw it, there's no reason to conserve anything, in a really funny way. Yeah, and then Dwayne Hoover walked into his Cadillac dealership. I think he is a Cadillac dealership, and is like hallucinating. It's Hawaiian week at the Cadillac dealership, And so he walks in and sees all this Cadillac stuff, or Hawaii stuff, and freaks out and doesn't know where he's actually at. Okay, so this is chapter 12. Let's do it. Breakfast of Champions. All right. Kilgore Trout was far away, but he was steadily closing the distance between himself and Dwayne. He was still in the truck named Pyramid, aka the semi-truck had Pyramid written on the outside, and so he was still in the truck named Pyramid. It was crossing a bridge named in honor of the poet Walt Whitman. The bridge was veiled in smoke. The truck was about to become a part of Philadelphia now. A sign at the foot of the bridge said this: "You are now entering the city of brotherly love." As a younger man, Trout would have sneered at the sign about brotherhood, posted on the rim of a bomb crater as anyone could see. But his head no longer sheltered ideas of how things could be and should be on the planet, as opposed to how they really were. There was only one way for the Earth to be, he thought, the way it was. Everything was necessary. He saw an old white woman fishing through a garbage can. That was necessary. He saw a bathtub toy, a little rubber duck, lying on its side on the grating over a storm sewer. It had to be there, and so on. The driver mentioned that the day before had been Veterans Day. Said Trout. "You a veteran?" said the driver. "No," said Trout. "Are you?" "No," said the driver. Neither one of them was a veteran. The driver got onto the subject of friends. He said it was hard for him to maintain friendships that meant anything because he was on the road most of the time. He joked about the time when he used to talk about his best friends. He guessed people stopped talking about best friends after they got out of junior high school. He suggested that Trout, since Trout was in the combination aluminum storm window and screen business, had opportunities to build many lasting friendships in the course of his work. I mean, he said, you get men working together day after day, putting up those windows, they get to know each other pretty well. "I work alone," said Trout. The driver was disappointed. "I assumed it would take 2 men to do the job." "Just one," said Trout. "A weak little kid could do it without any help." The driver wanted Trout to have a rich social life so that he could enjoy it vicariously. "All the same," he insisted, "you've got buddies you see after work. You have a few beers, you play some cards, you have some laughs." Trout shrugged. "You walk down the same streets every day," the driver told him. "You know a lot of people, and they know you, because it's the same streets for you day after day. You say, 'hello,' and they say, 'hello,' back. You call them by name. They call you by name. If you're in a real jam, they'll help you, because you're one of them. You belong. They see you every day." Trout didn't want to argue about it. Trout had forgotten the driver's name. Trout had a mental defect which I, too, used to suffer from. This is really key. The I shows up very, very rarely in this book, but it's Vonnegut himself, supposedly. Trout had a mental defect which I, too, used to suffer from. He couldn't remember what different people in his life looked like, unless their bodies or faces were strikingly unusual. When he lived on Cape Cod, for instance, the only person he could greet warmly and by name was Alfie Bierce, who was a one-armed albino. "Hot enough for you, Alfie?" he would say. "Where you been keeping yourself, Alfie?" he'd say. "You're a sight for sore eyes, Alfie," he'd say, and so on. Now that Trout lived in Cohost, the only person he called by name was a red-headed Cockney midget, Durling Heath. He worked in a shoe repair shop. Heath had an executive-type nameplate on his workbench in case anybody wished to address him by name. The nameplate looked like this: Durling Heath. Trout would drop into the shop from time to time and say such things as, "Who's going to win the World Series this year, Durling?" And, "You have any idea what all the sirens were blowing about last night, Durling?" And, "You're looking good today, Durling. Where'd you get that shirt?" And so on. Trout wondered now if his friendship with Heath was over. The last time Trout had been in the shoe repair place, saying this and that to Durling, the midget had unexpectedly screamed at him. This is what he had screamed in his Cockney accent: "Stop bloody hounding me." The governor of New York, Nelson Rockefeller, shook Trout's hand in a Cohost grocery store one time. Trout had no idea who he was. As a science fiction writer, he should have been flabbergasted to come so close to such a man. Rockefeller wasn't merely governor. Because of the peculiar laws in that part of the planet, Rockefeller was allowed to own vast areas of Earth's surface and the petroleum and other valuable minerals underneath the surface as well. He owned or controlled more of the planet than many nations. This had been his destiny since infancy. He had been born into that cockamamie proprietorship. Try saying that after you've had a beer. Cockamamie proprietorship. How's it going, fella? Governor Rockefeller asked him. About the same, said Kilgore Trout. After insisting that Trout had a rich social life, the driver pretended again, for his own gratification, that Trout had begged to know what the sex life of a transcontinental truck driver was like. Trout had begged no such thing. You want to know how truck drivers make out with women, right? The driver said. You have this idea that every driver you see is fucking up a storm from coast to coast, right? Trout shrugged. The truck driver became embittered by Trout, scolded him for being so salaciously misinformed. Let me tell you, Kilgore, he said. That's your name, right? Yes, said Trout. He had forgotten the driver's name 100 times. Every time Trout looked away from him, Trout forgot not only his name, but his face, too. Kilgore, goddammit, the driver said. If I was to have my rig break down in Cohoes, for instance, and I was to have to stay there for 2 days while it was worked on, how easy you think it would be for me to get laid while I was there? A stranger, looking the way I do. It would depend on how determined you were, said Trout. The driver sighed. Yeah, God, he said, and then he despaired for himself. That's probably the story of my life. Not enough determination. I'm going to read some comments real quick. That's probably the story of my life. Not enough determination. Oh. Pull that up, Jamie. I don't know what that means, Victor. I'll be honest. I'll be very honest with you. I don't know what that means. They talked about aluminum siding as a technique for making old houses look new again. From a distance, these sheets, which never needed painting, looked like freshly painted wood. The driver wanted to talk about permastone, too, which was a competitive scheme. It involved plastering the sides of old houses with colored cement, so that, from a distance, they looked as though they were made of stone. If you're in aluminum storm windows, the driver said to Trout, you must be in aluminum siding, too. All over the country, the two businesses went hand in hand. My company sells it, said Trout, and I've seen a lot of it. I've never actually worked on an installation. The driver was thinking seriously of buying aluminum siding for his house in Little Rock, and he begged Trout to give him an honest answer to this question. From what you've seen and heard, the people who get aluminum siding, are they happy with what they get? Around Cohoes, said Trout, I think those were about the only really happy people I ever saw. I know what you mean, said the driver. One time I saw a whole family standing outside their house. They couldn't believe how nice their house looked after the aluminum siding went on. My question to you, and you can give me an honest answer, on account of how we'll never have to do business, you and I. Kilgore, how long will that happiness last? About 15 years, said Trout. Our salesmen say you can easily have the job redone with all the money you've saved on paint and heat. Permastone looks a lot richer, and I suppose it lasts a lot longer too, said the driver. On the other hand, it costs a lot more. You get what you pay for, said Kilgore Trout. The truck driver told Trout about a gas hot water heater he had bought 30 years ago, and it hadn't given him a speck of trouble in all that time. I'll be damned, said Kilgore Trout. This section's funny because it's like Vonnegut talking about how we do small talk, and we go in with these preconceived notions of what the answer is. Both of them are and Trout is like just like spouting these platitudes. You get what you pay for. Trout asked about the truck, and the driver said it was the greatest truck in the world. The tractor alone cost $28,000. It was powered by a 324 horsepower Cummins diesel engine, which was turbocharged, so it would function well at high altitudes. It had hydraulic steering, air brakes, a 13-speed transmission, and was owned by his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law, he said, owned 28 trucks and was president of the Pyramid Trucking Company. Why did he name his company Pyramid? Asked Trout. I mean, this thing can go 100 miles an hour if it has to. It's fast and useful and unornamental. It's as up-to-date as a rocket ship. I never saw anything that was less like a pyramid than this truck. A pyramid was a sort of huge stone tomb which Egyptians had built thousands and thousands of years before. The Egyptians didn't build them anymore. The tombs looked like this, and the tourists would come from far away to gaze at them. Why would anybody in the business of high-speed transportation name his business and his trucks after buildings which haven't moved an eighth of an inch since Christ was born? The driver's answer was prompt. It was peevish, too, as though he thought Trout was stupid to have to ask a question like that. He liked the sound of it, he said. Don't you like the sound of it? Trout nodded in order to keep things friendly. Yes, he said. It's a very nice sound. Trout sat back and thought about the conversation. He shaped it into a story, which he never got around to writing until he was an old man. It was about a planet where the language kept turning into pure music because the creatures there were so enchanted by sounds. Words became musical notes. Sentences became melodies. They were useless as conveyors of information because nobody knew or cared what the meanings of words were anymore. So leaders in government and commerce, in order to function, had to invent new and much uglier vocabularies and sentence structures all the time, which would resist being transmuted to music. I think there's a commentary about our own world in there, in poetry. I think so. What do you think? You married, Kilgore? The driver asked. 3 times, said Trout. It was true. Not only that, but each of his wives had been extraordinarily patient and loving and beautiful. Each had been shriveled by his pessimism. Any kids? 1, said Trout. Somewhere in the past, tumbling among all the wives and stories lost in the mails, was a son named Leo. In the mails? What does that mean? Tumbling among all the wives and stories lost in the mails was a son named Leo. He's a man now, said Trout. Leo left home forever at the age of 14. He lied about his age and he joined the Marines. He sent a note to his father from boot camp. Maybe that's what he meant from the mail. It said this: I pity you. You've crawled up your own asshole and died. That was the last Trout heard from Leo, directly or indirectly, until he was visited by 2 agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Leo had deserted from his division in Vietnam, they said. He had committed high treason. He had joined the Viet Cong. Here was the FBI evaluation of Leo's situation on the planet at that time. Your boy's in bad trouble, they said. That's the end of chapter 12. I'm going to read some comments real quick. Maybe we can do 13 too. Currently reading my first Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-5. It's pretty difficult to read as my first Vonnegut, but I wasn't sure where else to start. Carissa, I think that's a really good choice. Slaughterhouse-5 and Cat's Cradle make the most sense, and Slaughterhouse-5 I think is a really good book to read first among Vonnegut, then read something else, and then come back to it, because I think you gain a lot more the second time with Slaughterhouse-5. Yeah, it's a really good book. You can do all that and sleep, you know. What the heck? You guys started without me. Alike, how's it going? How are you? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, but since I couldn't sleep, I figured I'd be productive. Let's see here. Jose says, Slaughterhouse-5 is awesome. I started with Sirens of Titan and then read Slaughterhouse-5. I will be honest, I have not read Sirens of Titan. Or Welcome to the Monkey House, which is what I'm craning over here to see. I own Welcome to the Monkey House. I really want to read it, but I think it's probably a 2019 read. Trying to figure out what I'm going to read for the rest of the year, and I think I've pretty much got it narrowed down. This is totally a different time than the one I was expecting. Yeah, I maybe should have announced it more, but I have to go to the Bahamas here tomorrow. I have to. I'm blessed to. So, going on vacation, and I had to do it early, so. Oh, sorry, still trying to catch up with comments. Alike says J.G. Ballard is a killer in a good way, like a good writer of words, not an actual killer. I don't think so. What are we reading today? Philip, we are reading Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. I should say that more often so that people who show up to the stream know what we're reading. Yeah, I read chapter 12. I'm going to read chapter 13 here as soon as I catch up with comments. Lieber, your resolution was to read 52 books this year. My resolution was to read 74 or 3. I don't remember why I picked that. I think it was like read one every 5 days. I've read like 40. That's really sad. Really sad. I'm hoping, what are people's resolutions for next year in terms of reading? God, Jack's at 101. Lieber's at 73. How many books have people read this year? Somebody put a number lower than 40 so that I feel better. I've read 100 in a year. I've read 52. I've read 80. I've read that whole range. This is going to be a really low year. But I'm trying to think what I should read next year. What should be my goal? So, Quack says their goal is just to read more, which I think is a really good one. I don't think having a number matters a ton. It does sometimes work as really good motivation for reading more. There we go. Somebody said 10. Thank you. Thank you, JP. That makes me feel a little bit better. And you shouldn't feel bad, to be very clear. My girlfriend said 12. Does that make you feel better? Yes, it does. Thank you. I have a very weak ego, is what this turns out to. I have a weak ego when it comes to how many books I've read. Yeah. I'll be honest though, the reason I'm a little sad with 40, and I might be able to reach 50 by the end of this year. The reason I'm gonna be a little bit sad with that, even then, is that will be the lowest I've read in like 8 years, 7 years. It's hard. It's hard to find the time. Life's gotten more busy as I've gotten a little bit older. Not being a grad student does not help. As a grad student, I read every single day, a ton, and had to read for class too, which was nice. So, Misadventures brings up a really good point, which is I wish I could read fewer and take my time more. Yeah. Yep. Lieber asks a question that I get a ton on this channel, which is, do you have a Goodreads? I think I have one. I do not update it. I am a socially anxious person, and I don't do social media very well. Instagram is about the only exception to that because I love pictures a lot. I don't do social media very well. I don't do very well with the like ultra connectivity of life in 2018, where you're expected to be on a million different pieces of social media and post regular updates on all of them. I think that they're all really good. I think that it's fine to be on those platforms and do really well. I'm really bad. It's not good for my mental space to be so connected. So I have taken steps in the last 3 years, 5 years, to be a little bit less connected. So one of the weird things that happened when I was on Goodreads is that I would post my books and then I would feel this pressure to update it every single time when I was reading a book. And if I wasn't reading enough, I despaired a little bit. And I don't think that was necessarily the logical, excuse me, this beer is coming up. I don't think necessarily that was the like logical conclusion, but I'm not under any circumstances claiming that this thing is logical. It's very much not. This brain of mine is not logical. So I keep track of every book that I read. I keep track of that personally. And sometimes at the end of a year, I'll post what I read for the entire year, but I don't update people throughout. Because I've just found that I'm less likely to, like if I'm in a reading slump, that reading slump is more likely to continue if I'm feeling guilty about not updating people on Goodreads or on here about what I'm reading at that time. Yeah. And like I said, not convinced that that's a perfectly logical way to think about things. I know for a fact my brain is not a logical thing. So I'm a little jealous of people who can do it and feel and get a lot of, like, Lord knows, I wish I had more fun on social media. I just don't a lot of times, and that's my own problem, and it's not anyone else's. I don't want to take away from anyone else's fun on social media. I just don't do so well with it. Brain chemistry, man. I got bad chemicals. That said, I'll say one thing really quickly, which is that the purpose that this YouTube channel has for me a lot of times is that I do sometimes feel a little bit of guilt when I have not made a video in a while, or I haven't delivered on something that I've promised. And that guilt only really bothers me if I've actually been a little lazy, or like if I've been working hard on getting stuff out and I've done as much as I can, then I don't feel guilty. But sometimes having a little bit of guilt is a really useful way to start on something and force yourself to put something out there. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got as a writer, for instance, is when you're young, to say yes to every deadline, because the thing that forces you to do is sit down and write a ton. For a very long time, fans of this channel who have been here for a really long time, I don't know how long people have been here for, I put out one video every single week. I think it was like every single Friday or Monday or whatever, for like 2 years, 3 years. And if I missed it, then I had to do a punishment. That kept me making videos every single week. It didn't work out long term. I needed to change from that method, but yeah. Anyways, that was a rant. Sorry about that. Quack says they started a blog with some friends and it's nerve-wracking. I feel ya. I feel ya. Jack, I don't know if you're asking me this. Are you writing anything right now? I am. Writing some fiction. Working on a story right now. Mostly one story. That is still in kind of early stages, but I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Terrell, maybe. Terrell says, Happy Hanukkah, even though I'm not really Jewish. Happy Hanukkah. So, I'm going to read more of this, but 2 seconds before I read more of this. My birthday is in like 3 days. I'm not telling you that so that you don't need to know that. The reason it's important is that I just got a book I'm really excited to start reading, which is The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. So, I've talked about this on the channel, but her book, Rachel Kushner's book, The Flamethrowers, that's what it's called, The Flamethrowers, one of the best books I've read in the last 3 years. Jesse Ball and Rachel Kushner are on my list of like people who are writing right now, and in 20 years will be known for what they've been writing at this time. Her book, Flamethrowers, was amazing. So I'm really excited to read. I got this and I'm taking it on vacation. The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. So has anyone read any Rachel Kushner? She's a little under the radar, which is surprising because she did, for a while there, she did some readings with Don DeLillo, who she's most compared to. She's like a modern day Don DeLillo, or a Don DeLillo of this time. She's a little younger, so. Okay. That said, I am going to, thanks. Thanks for saying happy early birthday, guys. That was a little weird how I brought that up. I was in the middle of that story and I was like, why am I telling people it's almost my birthday? Let's see here. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Okay, so this is chapter 13. When Dwayne Hoover saw Harry LeSabre, his sales manager, in leaf green leotards and a grass skirt and all that, he could not believe it. So that's where we left off in chapter like 11 on the last stream. He could not believe it, so he made himself not see it. He went into his office, which was also cluttered with ukuleles and pineapples. Francine Pefko, his secretary, looked normal, except that she had a rope of flowers around her neck and a flower behind one ear. She smiled. This was a war widow with lips like sofa pillows. Lips like sofa pillows and bright red hair. She adored Dwayne. She adored Hawaiian Week, too. Aloha, she said. Harry LeSabre, meanwhile, had been destroyed by Dwayne. When Harry presented himself to Dwayne so ridiculously, every molecule in his body awaited Dwayne's reaction. Each molecule ceased its business for a moment, put some distance between itself and its neighbors. Each molecule wanted to learn whether its galaxy, which was called Harry LeSabre, would or would not be dissolved. When Dwayne treated Harry as though he were invisible, Harry thought he had revealed himself as a revolting transvestite, and that he was fired on that account. Harry closed his eyes. He never wanted to open them again. His heart sent this message to his molecules. For reasons obvious to us all, this galaxy is dissolved. Dwayne didn't know anything about that. He leaned on Francine Pefko's desk. He came close to telling her how sick he was. He warned her, This is a very tough day for some reason, so no jokes, no surprises, keep everything simple. Keep anybody the least bit nutty out of here. No telephone calls. Francine told Dwayne that the twins were waiting for him in the inner office. Something bad is happening to the cave, I think, she told him. Dwayne was grateful for a message that simple and clear. The twins were his youngest stepbrothers, Lyle and Kyle Hoover. The cave was Sacred Miracle Cave, a tourist trap just south of Shepherdstown, which Dwayne owned in partnership with Lyle and Kyle. It was the sole source of income for Lyle and Kyle. God, I'm going to get really sick of saying that. Lyle and Kyle, who lived in identical yellow ranch houses on either side of the gift shop, which sheltered the entrance to the cave. All over the state, nailed to trees and fence posts, were arrow-shaped signs which pointed in the direction of the cave and said how far away it was. For example, visit Sacred Miracle Cave, 52 miles. Before Dwayne entered his inner office, he read one of many comical signs which Francine had put up on the wall in order to amuse people, to remind them of what they so easily forgot, that people didn't have to be serious all the time. Here was the text of the sign Dwayne read. You don't have to be crazy to work here, but it sure helps. I think we've all seen that sign. There was a picture of a crazy person to go with the text. This was it. Francine wore a button on her bosom, which showed a creature in a healthier, more enviable frame of mind. This was the button. Lyle and Kyle sat side by side on the black leather couch in Dwayne Hoover's inner office. They looked so much alike that Dwayne had not been able to tell them apart until 1954, when Lyle got in a fight over a woman at the roller derby. After that, Lyle was the one with the broken nose. As babies in crib, Dwayne remembered now, they used to suck each other's thumbs. Here is how Dwayne happened to have stepbrothers, incidentally, even though he had been adopted by people who couldn't have children of their own. Their adopting him triggered something to their bodies, which made it possible for them to have children after all. This was a common phenomenon. A lot of couples seemed to be programmed that way. I like how Vonnegut, as a sometimes sci-fi-ish writer, says, his way of convincing the audience that what he's saying is completely real is, this was a common phenomenon. I'm like, is it though? Is it? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That beer looks icky. This is a vanilla porter. It's beautiful. Or as my girlfriend would call it, it tastes like burnt coffee. She thinks all porters taste like burnt coffee. Dwayne was so glad to see them now. These two little men in overalls and work shoes, each wearing a pork pie hat. They were familiar. They were real. Dwayne closed his door on the chaos outside. All right, he said, what's happened at the cave? Ever since Lyle had had his nose broken, the twins agreed that Lyle should do the talking for the two. Kyle hadn't said 1,000 words since 1954. Them bubbles is halfway up to the cathedral now, said Lyle. The way they're coming, they'll be up to Moby Dick in a week or two. I have no idea what accent I'm doing, and I'm just going to roll with it. Dwayne understood him perfectly. The underground stream which passed through the bowels of Sacred Miracle Cave was polluted by some sort of industrial waste which formed bubbles as tough as ping-pong balls. These bubbles were shouldering one another up a passage which led to a big boulder which had been painted white to resemble Moby Dick, the great white whale. The bubbles would soon engulf Moby Dick and invade the Cathedral of Whispers, which was the main attraction at the cave. Thousands of people had been married in the Cathedral of Whispers, including Dwayne and Lyle and Kyle. Harry LeSabre, too. Lyle told Dwayne about an experiment he and Kyle had performed the night before. They had gone into the cave with their identical Browning automatic shotguns, and they had opened fire on the advancing wall of bubbles. They let loose a stink you wouldn't believe, said Lyle. He said it smelled like athlete's foot. It drove me and Kyle right out of there. We run the ventilating system for an hour, and then we went back in. The paint was blistered on Moby Dick. He ain't even got eyes anymore. I have no idea what this accent is. Moby Dick used to have long-lashed blue eyes as big as dinner plates. The organ turned black, and the ceiling turned a kind of dirty yellow, said Lyle. You can't hardly see the sacred... Oops, I forgot the accent. The organ turned black and the ceiling turned a kind of dirty yellow, said Lyle. You can't hardly see the sacred miracle no more. The organ was the pipe organ of the gods, a thicket of stalactites and stalagmites which had grown together in one corner of the cathedral. There was a loudspeaker in back of it through which music for weddings and funerals was played. It was illuminated by electric lights, which changed colors all the time. The sacred miracle was a cross on the ceiling of the cathedral. It was formed by the intersection of two rocks. It never was real easy to see, said Lyle, speaking of the cross. I ain't even sure it's there anymore. He asked Dwayne's permission to order a load of cement. He wanted to plug up the passage between the stream and the cathedral. Just forget about Moby Dick and Jesse James and the slaves and all that, said Lyle, and save the cathedral. Jesse James was a skeleton which Dwayne's stepfather had bought from the estate of a doctor back during the Great Depression. The bones of its right hand mingled with the rusted parts of a .45 caliber revolver. Tourists were told that it had been found that way, that it probably belonged to some railroad robber who had been trapped in the cave by a rock slide. As for the slaves, these were plaster statues of black men in a chamber 50 feet down the corridor from Jesse James. The statues were removing one another's chains with hammers and hacksaws. Tourists were told that real slaves had at one time used the cave after escaping to freedom across the Ohio River. Across the Ohio River. I have a vague sense, for instance, if you cross the Ohio River from the south, guess what state you end up in? Part of the time you end up in Ohio, but the other part of the time you end up in Indiana, Vonnegut's home state. I have a feeling this thing is based in Indiana, and he just won't say it. The story about the slaves was as fake as the one about Jesse James. The cave wasn't discovered until 1937 when a small earthquake opened it up a crack. Dwayne Hoover himself discovered the crack, and then he and his stepfather opened it with crowbars and dynamite. Before that, not even small animals had been in there. The only connection the cave had with slavery was this. The farm on which it was discovered was started by an ex-slave, Josephus Hubler. He was freed by his master, and he came north and started the farm. Then he went back and bought his mother and a woman who became his wife. Their descendants continued to run the farm until the Great Depression, when the Midland County Merchants Bank foreclosed on the mortgage. And then Dwayne's stepfather was hit by an automobile, driven by a white man who had bought the farm. In an out-of-court settlement for his injuries, Dwayne's stepfather was given what he called contemptuously a goddamn inward farm. Dwayne remembered the first trip the family took to see it. His father ripped an inward sign off the inward mailbox, and he threw it into a ditch. Here is what it said. Bluebird Farm, with the E backwards. And that is the end of chapter 14. Or 13. Oh man, I'm losing my voice already. That accent, haha. Oh yeah. JP says, hit me up for porter and stout recommendations. Let me know what you think. I buy most of the porter and stouts that my local beer shop carries, other than the ones that are like $15. So. Ugh. Losing my voice already. I love this book so much. Breakfast of Champions is a whole bunch of fun. How we doing? We having a good Monday so far, people? Anyone have any plans for the rest of the day? Fire to Fire by Mark Doty, someone was mentioning. RJD53. I'll be honest, I have not read a ton of it. I have seen Mark Doty give a reading from this book. And I think his poems are helped a ton by watching the man speak. So if there are any videos of Mark Doty reading his poems online, one of my suggestions, and I do this for a lot of poets, honestly, if you can find a video of them reading their own poems as you're kind of in the middle of reading the book, I think your understanding of poems goes up a lot. I don't think that that's necessary to love a book. I think, in fact, a good book of poetry should not have to have the poet, there to help your understanding along. But I think if you can do something to help your understanding, I think you should. So let's see here. I have not seen The Color. I've read The Color Purple. I've read The Color Purple. It's been almost 10 years probably, but I have not seen the book. Or seen the movie. Wow, I'm apparently drunk on my 5% beer. Let's see here. Sorry, just catching up on comments here. Yeah, this beer would look a little icky if it was the morning and you've just woken up. Ryan, you missed my questions posted above. Terrell, I apologize. Post them again if you... Oh, okay, I see it now. Thoughts on the passing of George Herbert Walker Bush? I don't really have any thoughts, honestly. I have more thoughts on the different... like the different remembrances posted by other people on him than I do of his actual passing. I didn't know the man very well. Like, I didn't know much about the man. All I know is from history, and I probably know less about him than a lot of other U.S. presidents. I'm not going to try and have an opinion just to have one. I don't really have one yet. So, what about you? How would you rate the book so far, Ryan? Lieber says. Man, I'm loving it. Yeah. I mean, I don't like number ratings, but I'd say like 8 out of 10. I think in general, I've not read any Vonnegut yet that gets a lower than 8 out of 10. I am very interested to see how it ends, see where it goes from here, see what he leaves us with. Yeah, that's the real test of any book. Like, getting us started and getting us interested is the bare minimum, and he's done that really well. So I'm really interested to see what he leaves us with. I'm looking for furniture for my first ever own apartment. Heck yeah, congrats, that's huge. It's a big moment. Watching my daily episode of an old Danish show from my Christmas calendar and then off to bed. Sounds like a good day. Poems do not read their RJ says poets do not read their poems very well usually. Tell me more. Man, I don't know that I agree with you, but I want to hear what you've got to say. I don't so far agree with you, but headline: Old man dies. Man dies at normal age. Yeah, 94 is a good long age. I personally don't hope to be 94. I hope this doesn't sound terrible, but I'm not sure that I hope I make it to 94. Maybe my opinion on that fact will change over time, but I'm not sure that I want to be 94. That's a very old age. Will you ever grow your hair long again? Don't tell my girlfriend, but maybe. Favorite classic holiday movie, favorite modern holiday movie. I like Elf a lot, although I've seen it way too many times because my girlfriend... because my sister. My girlfriend just popped up in the chat. My sister loves Elf, and so I've seen it way too many times. A Christmas Story is really good. I like the Home Alone movies for the holidays are really good. Any other favorite Christmas movies that people have? Polar Express is good. I haven't seen Die Hard. I was gonna say something about Die Hard. I want to see Die Hard. I haven't seen it actually. It's a Wonderful Life. I actually really like. Yeah. Megan hears everything. I know she does. I can't. Let me guys tell you what I got her for Christmas. Oh wait, I can't. I think she'll like it though. At least the thing I'm thinking of. I think she'll like. I don't know. I hope she likes all of it. But A Christmas Story was great. Fragile. It must be Italian. Valentina says happy birthday. Thank you. I'm 26 this year, guys. I'm really old. I'm really old. Daniel says the ultimate Christmas story is Being in Time. Oh, that's really good. Yeah. The poetry readings by poets I heard were not good. They read too monotonously. The Russians are different, but I don't understand them. I would suggest that you've just not seen any good poets yet. I think that poetry, at its very best, when read by very good poets, is incredible. Some of the best live poet readings that I've seen. Ross Gay, who I talk about on this channel literally all of the time. Ross Gay his poems are alive when he reads them. They're so good. Ada Limon, who I've mentioned here. Trying to think of who else really tops that list. I've seen some bad poet readings. Don't worry. I've seen some bad ones. But I've also seen really good fiction and nonfiction readings, for instance. George Saunders, amazing writer. As we know, he's kind of like the... he's like heading up the charge right now on American writing. I think he's even better in person than he is on the page. And I like his page stuff. He's really good in person. Really good. There's that story he wrote in 10th of December, which has 3 different points of view. One is like a young middle school boy, one is a young middle school girl, and then the other one is like a like plumber or handyman. He read that one aloud at my college, and I saw him read it. And from the moment he started, I was in this other world. Like, I had forgotten that my body was sitting in a seat. I was in the world that he had created. And that's partially because that story is really good. It's partially because he is a really good storyteller in person. Megan is agreeing with me. She's seen Ross Gay speak, or read his poems. We saw him read last year. It's really good. Really beautiful. Pablo Neruda is the complete opposite of that. AKA, is he really bad at reading? His readings are really bad. Lieber is the youngest one here. Misadventures is headed out of here. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. And you may have already missed this. I was listening to Harold Bloom read Shakespeare, Melville, Stevens, and Houseman. That really sold me on verse. Interesting. Did you find that on YouTube? Daniel says that Lieber says this is an adult meeting and Lieber should go outside. Lieber, you can stay here. I'm cool with that. Oh, Terrell asks a really beautiful question, which is favorite Kurt Vonnegut quote. I'm going to let you in on a little personal life secret. I have to look up the quote really quickly, but I'm going to read it to you and tell you the story behind it really quickly. Doing some Googling on the live stream. This has been fun so far. Yeah, Megan knows what I'm about to read, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. She said, "Dear babies." Here's the quote by Kurt Vonnegut. Megan and I want someday to hang this in our future home. I love this quote so much that I cried the first time I heard it, and I sometimes cry hearing it now. Hello, babies. This is Kurt Vonnegut. Hello, babies. Welcome to Earth. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. It's round and wet and crowded. On the outside, babies, you've got 100 years here. There's only one rule that I know of, babies. God damn it, you've got to be kind. I love that so much. Minhaj mentioned David Sedaris. David Sedaris, at least reading his own audiobooks, for instance, incredible. I'm really excited. I think I might have a chance to see David Sedaris read in the next year. I'm going to take that opportunity if I get the chance. Sedaris gives a lot of life to his stuff already. Wow, gives a lot of life to his stuff as well. Let's see here. Only Kerouac can read Kerouac aloud? Yeah. Kerouac, man, what a guy. What an interesting dude. Yeah. Carissa says, I just turned 19. Should I leave? No, you can leave. Just don't get mad at me if I use curse words. I realized recently that I should probably curse a little bit less on the channel, but it doesn't help when you're reading Kurt Vonnegut and he says all kinds of stuff that I have to read aloud. Jonathan Safran 4. Yeah. I'm always a little scared discussing his work publicly. People really dislike him. Is that true? Dang, that sucks, because I really like him too. You can stay, but you can't drink. Anyone else have anything good going on today? Anything else exciting? I've mentioned it once already, but I am, as soon as I get done, excuse me, with the live stream here, I am headed to, well, I'm not headed anywhere. I'm going to sit here and pack. I've got a lot of packing left to do. If you could see my room right now, it's a complete mess. That is because I need to pack up my life for a week, and I need to figure out what books I'm going to take on vacation with me. The Mars room I'm going to take. I'm rereading Harry Potter, which is another spoiler about these videos that I'm about to do. But I'm taking, I think, at least 2 Harry Potter books. Taking those. Let's see here. I got a running book that I'm reading. I'm going to take probably 4 books on this vacation, maybe more. I'm going to have a lot of reading time, so I want to take something short so that I can knock it out while I'm on vacation. I'm a big fan of like having a book, the length of a book's narrative fit nicely within a little life narrative too. My girlfriend is taking 4 or 5, so we got to coordinate our packing. Megan, which Harry Potter books are you taking so that I can just read yours if I need to? Have you ever watched or heard Strangers with Candy? I've not. Bring some Salinger. Oh, now I understand. You're bringing 4 and 5. That's what I meant, punk, she says. Guys, why is my girlfriend so mean to me? Why is she so mean? I'm gonna cry. Alright, well, I'll just bring 3 then, because I'll bring 3, you can bring 4 and 5, and that'll work. Thanks for saving me the text message that I needed to send you as soon as I was done on the live stream here. Let's see what else I'm taking. You put words in her mouth, that's why. That's fair. I'm nice, she says. She is really nice. She's awesome. What else to take? I want things that are really quick so that I can finish them before the end of the year. Jack Clare says that's a good album. What album are we talking about? Minhaj says, have you guys read anything by Ali Smith? I have not. What did Ali Smith write? What has Ali Smith written? You missed my comment. I would love to meet David Sedaris someday. Such an honest person, as well as his sister Amy. That's true. Terrell, thanks for just commenting again. A lot of times I miss comments because I'm scrolling through them really quickly. It's really hard to be the person on screen because I have to like say inspiring. Thank you. Inspiring stuff. Inspiring. And also read comments, and I never do it very well. So just read comments, repost your comments, and I'll find them. Best part about where I live is the coffee shop is 5 minutes away. Yeah, I've got like 4 within 15 minutes, and I'm very happy about that. The mods are conspiring against us. Yeah. Yeah. Shh. Be very nice to the mods, or else they might take over this channel. Let's see here. Carrion Lowell, Sufjan Stevens, a few comments from back. Gotcha. Back from my, cool. Mutiny is coming, my girlfriend says. Looking at my shelf for some short stuff to suggest, because obviously we have the same books. I love that. That's a good sign if we have the same books. Been a huge fan of Amy Sedaris since her Strangers with Candy days with Stephen Colbert. Crap, that's her. Strangers with Candy. Okay. I need to read more Amy Sedaris. Amy Sedaris in David Sedaris' book of diaries. It's called Theft by Finding. It's 25 years of his diaries, kind of like culminated, what's that word? Curated into one book. Amy comes off really well in that. She's freaking hilarious. They're conspiring against you. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else I'm going to take. I think that's probably about it. If I've got 3 Harry Potter books with me, at the very least I should be able to read that much. I've got this one, which is like 300 pages. I've got writing I need to do. I've got lots of writing I need to do. I might take Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. I started reading it. It's just a little bit slow, so I shouldn't go much farther. Or I might not get it finished by the end of the year. Philip says, I'll shut up now. The Mars room is described as OITNB in fiction form, right? I'm going to be really honest with you. OINTB. OINTB. I don't know what that stands for. I'm doing the math really quickly. Orange is the new black. Okay. Whew. So bad with the pop culture. Let me read you the the summary real quick. From twice National Book Award nominated Rachel Kushner, whose The Flamethrowers was called the best, most brazen, most interesting book of the year, I completely agree, comes a spectacularly compelling, heart-stopping novel about a life gone off the rails in contemporary America. It's 2003 and Romy Hall is at the start of 2 consecutive life sentences at Stanville Women's Correctional Facility, deep in California's Central Valley. Outside is the world from which she has been severed, the San Francisco of her youth and her young son, Jackson. Inside is a new reality. Thousands of women hustling for the bare essentials needed to survive, the bluffing and pageantry and casual acts of violence by guards and prisoners alike, and the deadpan absurdities of institutional living, which Kushner evokes with great humor and precision. The Mars Room, a magnificent feat of witness and imagination, demonstrates new levels of mastery in Kushner's work. It is audacious and tragic, propulsive, and yet beautifully refined. As James Wood said in The New Yorker, Kushner's fiction succeeds because it is so full of vibrantly different stories and histories, all of them particular, all of them brilliantly alive. James Wood would know, considering crap, I don't know where it is. It's Wood, W. He wrote one of my favorite books on how to tell what is good writing and how to write some of the best writing yourself, How Fiction Works. James Wood's reviews on in The New Yorker, I normally agree with like 95% of the time. He's written some really good reviews. He knows what he's talking about, so that's funny. Started typing before you asked because I knew you wouldn't know, my girlfriend says. You know me too well, because I did not know what Orange is the New Black is. So, yeah, similar enough. I mean, I didn't read Orange is the New Black. I watched part of the show. Sounds like the same kind of world. I have no idea. Like, the world is important, but the lens is what always makes the difference. So, sounds like similar plots or similar worlds. No idea what the lens will be. I'm excited, though. She has some of the best descriptions and kind of like insights on human and life. So, yeah. Conspiracy Against the Human Race is a depressing book. I have not read that. What's that like? I want to be you. I'm doing this, alike and Philip, with the knowledge that I can take this power away at any time. Please don't do anything crazy. Hey, you guys are volunteering for it, Victor? So I just want a spanner next to my name. I don't want to have to do anything for it, though. Yeah, what you're signing up for here is moderating the channel, moderating comments, making sure people are doing things correctly. What coming of age sci-fi books? Oh, hello, Owen. How are you? Owen, how's it going? Owen is my little nephew. Owen, how are you today? Were you at school today? Are you out of school now? Guys, we have to be age appropriate now that Owen is here. Hello, Owen. Who mods the mods? Who watches the Watchmen, you know? Anyways, Terrell was asking me a question. What coming-of-age sci-fi books would you like to recommend to fans of Stranger Things, even though I haven't watched the show myself? My go-to coming-of-age sci-fi book is Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, which I have read probably 16, 17 times in my life by now. I've talked about it on the channel before. If that one doesn't interest you, come back to me. But that's my first go-to every single time. So I find myself disagreeing with James Wood quite a bit. His review of White Teeth, Infinite Jest, Goldfinch. Huh. I don't remember if it's his review of Infinite Jest that I disagreed with or not. I'll have to look at that. Hi, Owen. Yes, and I'm doing good. Did you learn anything good in school today? You're not going to learn anything good from this live stream, I can tell you that. My name looks amazing in blue, Victor says. James Wood has a new novel out. Are you planning on checking it out, Ryan? I might. We'll see. It sounds like a good 2019 thing. At this point of the year, I'm mostly looking at things in terms of like how quickly can I knock them out before the end of the year? What needs to wait for next year? Should I read The Secret History? Yes, you should. The answer to that question is always yes. If it's the last book you're reading, the answer to that question is yes. Thanks, Ryan. I bow to you graciously. Like, at the very least, you know how to suck up correctly. You know how to suck up correctly. All right, guys, I think I'm getting off of here in the next minute or two. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on a Monday at a random time. We had a good group of people here today. I'm thankful that we got to chat about books, read some Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. I have got to go pack my suitcase. I have a lot of things to do, actually. I have a video to work on. Look for a video, I'm thinking probably on Thursday. Thursday or Friday, I'll have another video out, and I'm really excited about it. It's the start of a series that I'm doing here on the channel. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. Thanks for coming here. Again, no live stream next Monday because I will be on vacation. I will see you guys the Monday after that, but also in some videos in the meantime. So, thanks so much for hanging out. This has been good. It's always good when I get to see you guys. Wait, I didn't even get a taste of my new powers, Philip. Philip, I guess that just means that you're going to have to come back here in a couple Mondays. All right, I'll see all you guys later. Thanks so much. Best wishes.